Welcome back to the Law and Justice Unit's premier webcast. I'm Chris Cuomo, happy to be here with you. Let's look at the question, what is evil? How do you rate which crimes are more evil than others? Is it science? Is it logic? How about some answers? Renowned forensic psychiatrist and ABC News consultant, Dr. Michael Welner. He consults on some of America's most complex crimes, but he's also pioneering research to help juries distinguish the worst of crimes. Now, to do this, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us. The Depravity Scale is what you're working on, and it's not just about you. You believe it must have the public's involvement as well. Explain.
Absolutely. Evil is such a subjective idea. If I were to ask you what you think an evil crime is, you would have an opinion and an interpretation, and I can promise you if you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different opinions. And yet courts wrestle with deciding, does this murder represent a heinous murder? Does it deserve the death penalty? Is this a depraved assault? Is this a heinous or a horrible or a wanton? These are words that are used in courts. So the Depravity Scale is a landmark project that involves the general public, gives the general public the opportunity to look at different qualities of intent, actions, attitude, and victims that are targeted. The public has an opportunity at www.depravityscale.org to help define what we as a society believe are the features of the worst of crimes.
A true community standard, and you're right, because legally it gets very complicated. They use words like evil or wanton, but there are no set definitions for them. There is feel. Why shouldn't the people have a say in that field?
Of course. Imagine being a juror. Imagine being a juror, you're deliberating a murder, and you say, I've never seen a murder before. This has got to be the worst thing that I've ever seen. And so the U.S. Supreme Court in 1972 in Durham actually encouraged jurors getting guidance. The Depravity Standard, which is going to be informed by the general public, is meant to give jurors guidance, but guidance about what the public feels. And I think that we should incorporate opinions not just of men, but women, all ethnicities, people from all states, and that's why it's so important to participate in a web-driven, standardized research effort.
And when we look at a specific case, the need for this becomes more clear. You've been involved with many. One that we did together, Andrea Yates, you had one of the rare opportunities to sit and interview her. Let's take a look and listen. What happened on the morning of June 20th, 2001 seemed beyond comprehension. Andrea Yates, a former nurse and the valedictorian of her high school, had methodically drowned her 5 children one by one in the family's bathtub. Images of the children on home movies and pictures. And then 5 tiny coffins made headlines around the world.
Today's date is May 3rd, 2006.
In these tapes, released exclusively to primetime, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Michael Welner, hired by the prosecution, interviews Yates for 14 hours. Welner believes the tapes show Yates was a mother overwhelmed, a mother who methodically and deliberately murdered her children. Andrea's first victim would be the boy she called Perfect Paul, a 3-year-old whom she says never gave her an ounce of trouble.
I put him in the water until he stopped breathing.
And what was your reaction when you began to struggle?
I just held him down.
Next came 5-year-old John and his 2-year-old brother Luke.
I put him in the water too.
Then Mary, just 6 months old.
And then what happened?
And then I went to go get Noah.
The last would be the oldest, 7-year-old Noah.
I walked him to the bathroom. And I put him in the water.
Andrea recalls him fighting the hardest.
What were you thinking when he came back up out of the water?
It was just determined.
Tough case, and goes very much to your point about what someone's subjective feeling is. Many people would see that crime and say, this is the worst thing I've ever heard of, killing your own children, a mother doing it, what could be worse? But you say on the depravity scale, this crime may be a little low.
Well, you know, it's important to recognize that what happens now, people have to make decisions based on their gut. But in an interview like this, you see that an assessment of the depravity of a case involves a close focus on a person's intent, her actions, and what her attitude was about what she did and whom she targeted. So look at it on the one hand, you see that she killed 5 defenseless children, and She exploited the trust of the surviving children in order to methodically do so.
Good point.
But on the other hand, she didn't intend to traumatize the children. She didn't intend to disfigure them. She didn't intend to terrorize. She did not target anyone, particularly because of prejudice. She didn't prolong the suffering of her children. She didn't have satisfaction about what she did. And these qualities you see in other crimes. This is why the survey is so important. The general public has to be involved in determining, when you target defenseless children, is that enough to make a crime highly depraved or less so?
Very strong point, and it's very interesting. Final point to make with you, Doctor, is that this scale would not only help the system in defining our standards, but you say would also give confidence to people who might be jurors, or just how citizens see this system.
Well, of course, sooner or later people may end up in the system, they may be jurors, and we question whether our system represents us. If we know that we're involved in shaping the laws, especially the most sensitive laws, we'll have more confidence in our system and we'll feel more comfortable participating in it. And I would encourage all of your viewers to participate themselves at www.depravityscale.org. Your opinion means as much as mine.
Doctor, thank you very much for giving us the perspective. Always appreciate it. And you heard the website, that's where you go, and you can fill it out.